Hey everyone, welcome back to Playing Quietly. My name is Ryan, and today I'm bringing you another Remnant 2 build guide. Today we're going to be discussing a really fun healer utility build. We are going to be helping our teammates regen their mod power as well as their health via spamming a whole bunch of mods. So the two archetypes we're going to be utilizing for this build are Archon in our main slot as well as Medic in our secondary slot. We're going to be taking Archon in the primary slot so that we have access to Tempest. This is going to automatically generate 15 mod power per second. Casting a mod doubles this value for 10 seconds, so we are effectively going to have 30 mod power per second pretty much constantly. This is also going to grant us access to Amplify, which is going to increase our mod damage by 50% and grant 10% mod crit chance. Our team perk is really nice. After casting a mod, 10% of the mod power spent will be regenerated by all allies over 10 seconds. While mod power creep is active, allies will also be granted 10% mod power generation. And again, since we are going to be constantly spamming our mods, we are going to have that up all the time. And Spirit Within is just going to reduce our mod power requirements by 10% per charge. For our skill, we're going to be going with Reality Rune. This conjures a 7-meter protective dome which applies slow to any enemies or enemy projectiles. Allies inside gain 25% damage reduction and automatically generate 50 mod power per second, and it's going to last us 17 seconds. In our secondary slot, like I said, we're going with Medic. This will give us access to Invigorated, which is going to grant us 25% increase to all damage as well as 5% crit chance. But what we're really going after here is Benevolence. This is going to increase relic efficiency by 15% and heals nearby allies for 30% of the total healing value. This increases to 60% for all allies below 35% max health. And for our Medic skill, we're going to be going with Healing Shield. The Medic quickly expels healing energy to shield all allies within 25 meters for 100% of their max health or 11.5 seconds. While shielding, allies regenerate 30% of their max health over the duration. Now this is going to be kind of our last-ditch effort to keep our allies alive, and that shield should allow us to heal them back up for whatever missing health they have. So now let's take a look at our gear. We are going to be going with the Zealot set for all of our armor slots. When we take into account our traits and our prisms, this is going to put us at the light roll threshold. And when we have our mods activated, this is going to put us at just over the total DR cap. For our relic slot, we have two choices. I like to go with the Profane Heart, as we are going to be leaning heavily into lifesteal. However, the Tranquil Heart is also a very good option here. So when it comes to our weapons, all we really care about is that there is an open mod slot. For my long gun, I like to go with the Bulldog, as it recently saw a big buff, and it is extremely fun to use now. For our first mod, we're going to be going with Root Lash. This launches a projectile which summons a root tentacle. The tentacle deals 171 damage and steals 1.5% of the hero's max life per hit, and lasts 29 seconds. Now it says there's a max of 2, but we'll get into that a bit later. The mod power requirement here is going to be 337.5. For our mutator, we're going to be going with Spirit Healer. This is going to regenerate 2% health over 10 seconds for every 50 mod power spent, and at level 10, allies within 15 meters are healed for 50% of the primary effect. And again, since we are going to be constantly spamming this will be up nearly 100% of the time. For our handgun, I like to go with the repair tool just because this is a healer-centric build, but again, as long as there's an open mod slot, you can go with whatever you like. For this mod, we're going to be going with Space Crabs. This is going to launch an alien egg that bursts on impact, releasing 5 space crabs. Crabs follow the caster, leaping towards enemies within 4 meters, and exploding, dealing 356.4 damage each. with a mod power requirement of 337.5. And for our mutator slot, we're going to be going with Spellweaver. This increases the weapon's mod damage and mod generation by 15% for 10 seconds when activating a skill. At level 10, activating this weapon's mod reduces skill cooldown by 1% for every 100 mod power spent. Now, when it comes to our melee weapon, it really doesn't matter. It is never going to come into play. However, what I usually run with my builds is World's Edge with Tainted Blade. This is really good for clearing large packs of enemies, but again, we're not really ever going to use it. Moving right along to our jewelry slots, let's take a look at the amulet first. This is going to be the engine of our build, the reaction chain. This increases mod damage by 20%. Activating a mod generates 50% of mod power spent to the stowed weapons mod. So basically what this is going to allow us to do is activate the mod, fire it off, switch weapons, activate that mod, fire it off, and then 50% of the mod power spent is going to go and feed this weapon, which combined with our mod power generation is going to let us fire continuously. Next up for our rings, the first ring we're going to be using Soul Link. Summons gain 5% of base damage dealt as lifesteal, which returns to the wearer as health. So again, because we are going to have a ton of summons up in the form of our Root Lash and our Space Crabs, that is going to be a ton of healing coming back to us. Next up, we have Soul Guard. We are going to gain a stack of Bulwark for each active summon. So again, since we're going to be spamming these summon mods, we are going to constantly have 5 Bulwark at all times. After that, we're going to be using Burden of the Divine. All damage dealt is going to be reduced by 15%, and our self-healing applies 30% of its benefits to our allies. So 30% of all of our healing that we're going to be doing, even through our summons with Soul Link, all of our lifesteal is going, 30% of those benefits are going to be going to our allies, which is going to be a huge amount of healing. And finally, we're going to be using Burden of the Warlock. This is going to reduce the mod power requirements by 15%. Activating a mod costs 15% health as gray health, and the conversion cannot kill the wearer. So the reason we want to be running this is we need some way of damaging ourselves so that our lifesteal actually kicks in, so that it is transferred to our allies. So now let's take a look at our traits. Of course, we are going to have Flashcaster and Triage by default. After that, we're going to be putting 10 points into Fortify and 9 points into Strongback. We're also going to be going with 10 points into Regrowth, then maxing out our Vigor. We're also going to want to max out Spirit so that we have that mod power generation. We're also going to put 10 points into Barkskin, 10 points into Chakra, 10 points into Leech, and finally 10 points into Siphoner. When it comes to our Prism, for our fragment section, you'll have to forgive me here, I am missing a few fragments as I just rebuilt a Prism, so I am missing a few fragments here, but imagine that we have our mod damage, mod crit chance, as well as mod duration. For our Prism, the 4 fusions that we're going to want to go with are Tank, Mage, Revitalize, and Longevity. And for the open Prism slot, you have a few different options here. However, I went with mod crit chance. For our legendary slot, I really recommend going with Impervious, as this is going to help us a lot with our own survival. Now, let's take a look at what the typical rotation for this build is going to look like. It's actually very simple. All we're going to be doing is activating our first mod, firing it off, switching our weapons, activating our mod, fire it off, rinse, and repeat. So as you guys can see, we're going to be constantly spamming those mods, and we're never going to run out of mod power. What that essentially means is that all of the buffs that we're going to be generating by activating our mods are going to be up 100% of the time. Now, if we come over to the range here, we're going to find that this definitely is not the highest damage build. However, we are going to be able to do more than enough damage to take out any of the bosses. And through the combination of how much total DR we have and the amount of lifesteal we have, any damage that we do take is going to be nearly instantly healed. So again, we can see there we are doing a lot of damage to ourselves by activating those mods, but our lifesteal is keeping us up no problem. Now, say we get into a little bit of trouble or we know a big hit is incoming, we can simply reactivate our reality room, and that is going to give us more than enough shield to deal with whatever is coming our way. And if our allies should dip below 50%, I usually like to throw out the healing shield. Same thing for us. If we dip really low for some reason, throwing out that healing shield is going to give us a nice damage buffer for about 10 seconds, and it's going to heal us up a little bit too and allow our lifesteal to do what it does. And again, when it comes to our skill cooldowns, when we are activating our mod using the Spellweaver, we're going to be getting that 3% back every time. So that's going to about do it for the guide. Again, this is an extremely versatile build. It really does very well in Apocalypse. I was able to run a friend of mine through several Apocalypse boss rushes, and we were able to stay up 100% of the time. It was really no problem. I think we maybe only dipped a little bit low one time. Alright guys, so that is going to do it for today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, hopefully I have earned your subscription. Don't forget to check back for new videos coming out all the time, but until then, we'll see you guys next time. Have yourselves a good one.